Welcome to my channel. Your support means a great deal to us, and we'd love to know where you're joining us from. Are you at home or on the go? Feel free to share with us below. Now, let's dive into today's story. The night was quiet, and darkness enveloped the large house. The stillness of the space made Olivia feel as if she were surrounded by an ice-cold wall. The once vibrant home, filled with memories, had become a suffocating prison. It was no longer the warm, loving place she once thought would be her forever home. Olivia sat quietly at her desk in the dimly lit room, only the faint glow of the desk lamp illuminating her face. In front of her lay an old family photo, a picture she couldn't forget. Andrew, her husband, stood with his signature confident smile, his arm around her waist. Their two children were joyfully playing in the background. This photo had been taken on a sunny day at Malibu Beach, symbolizing the happy times they once shared. But now, as Olivia looked at the photo, it felt more like a memory of strangers rather than a family portrait. Andrew wasn't a bad husband. He didn't shout or hurt her with cruel words. But it was his silence, his coldness, and the long days filled with a lack of love that caused their marriage to crack. Everything had become too still. No deep conversations, no affection, no sexual intimacy, and no gestures of love as there once were. Andrew was always busy with work, running a large logistics company, and despite Olivia's efforts, she had become nothing more than a shadow in a loveless marriage. Every Thursday, Andrew would leave for business trips, and Olivia always looked forward to these moments of freedom. But then, one Thursday evening, something changed. Andrew came home later than usual, his gaze colder than ever, and there was nothing about him that resembled a husband returning from a business trip. Olivia said nothing, just silently watched as he walked through the door, hands slipping into his jacket pockets, without so much as glancing at her. "Was the work trip successful?" Olivia asked, trying to mask the hesitation in her voice. "Yeah, everything's fine," Andrew replied with a faint smile, but it was unconvincing. His eyes briefly glanced at Olivia, but it was more of a reflex than anything meaningful. Still, Olivia knew that it wasn't work that had tired him out. She sensed the distance, the coldness, something she couldn't explain. That night, they ate dinner in silence, no extra words exchanged, just shallow talk about work and trivial matters. The night passed, and once again, they lived in a space filled with silence. On a weekend, Olivia decided to take the family on a trip. It was Andrew's idea to go to Nashville, but the trip quickly became just another cold and distant event. They visited the Grand Ole Opry, took tired photos in front of tourist spots, but Andrew didn't seem interested at all. Olivia could feel the distance between them, a growing sense of suffocation within her. On the ride home, Olivia couldn't hold back the unease that bubbled up inside her. "Andrew," she began, her voice slightly trembling, "have you ever thought about cheating?" Andrew didn't react with anger or denial. Instead, he was silent for a long moment before responding. "If that's what you really want, then I have nothing to say. Do it, if that's what you need." His words hit Olivia like a bomb in her chest. Andrew wasn't angry, nor was he worried. He was calm, as if everything had already been decided. Olivia sat in the car, frozen with a sense of dread. How could a marriage fall apart like this? A few days later, Olivia received a call from Andrew's mother. She informed Olivia of something strange. A woman had called, claiming to be the grandmother of their youngest daughter, April. The woman said her son, Mark, was April's biological father, not from either Andrew's or Olivia's side of the family. Olivia was stunned. Mark, her former lover, the powerful lawyer she had once been involved with before meeting Andrew, was now at the center of this revelation. What had she missed all this time? Olivia began to doubt everything, wondering if the secrets she hadn't known were now about to surface. Olivia decided to investigate. She set out to meet Mark, though she hadn't wanted to face him. What she uncovered left her speechless. Mark not only had an affair with her before her marriage, but had continued the affair with Grace, her own wife, a relationship Olivia hadn't even noticed. Slowly, all the secrets that had been hidden for so long were coming to light. Although Andrew seemed distant, Olivia realized that he had known about Grace and Mark's affair for a while. In fact, Andrew hadn't been the one suffering. He had been planning how to handle this betrayal. The secrets he had been hiding could no longer stay buried. Olivia began to gather evidence. Every phone call, every meeting between Grace and Mark. She kept it all, leaving no trace behind. One late afternoon, Olivia sat in her office, holding her phone tightly, staring at the missed call from Grace. She knew everything now. Every hidden secret, every illicit meeting, every lie had been exposed. Olivia was no longer the weak woman watching her marriage fall apart. She was the one in control. The next day, Olivia didn't call Grace. There was no need to. Everything had been set in motion, and she wasn't going to waste any more time on apologies or empty words. She was ready to make a decision about her life. Olivia knew facing Mark would be the hardest part. They had once shared a brief but intense connection, but now, Mark was the greatest threat to her peace. She arranged a meeting with him at a quiet cafe where no one could interrupt them. Mark arrived on time, dressed in a black suit, his exterior unchanged. However, Olivia could see the unease in his eyes when he saw her, and she could sense the fear that radiated from him. "Olivia," Mark began, his voice dry and strained. "We need to talk." "We don't need to say anything," Olivia replied firmly, her voice strong. "I know everything. I know about your relationship with Grace. I know she's been lying to me about my daughter." Mark tried to speak, but Olivia didn't give him the chance. "You think I'm too dumb to notice? Everything is recorded. Every meeting, every lie. There's evidence. You can't fool me anymore." Olivia stared directly at Mark, forcing him to avert his gaze. Mark smiled weakly, but it wasn't one of amusement. "Olivia, you know, I'm not your enemy. I'm just another player in the game. Andrew probably knew a long time ago. Everything you're doing now is just a step behind me." Olivia wasn't angry, nor was she shaken. She had prepared herself for this. She simply stared at him in silence, not needing to say a word. All she needed now was a life free from deception and betrayal. After her meeting with Mark, Olivia knew it was time to face Andrew, the man she had once loved, the man who had turned her life into a series of lies. She knew he wasn't a bad person, but he had betrayed her in such a subtle and cold way. He had turned her into a pawn in his game of power. Olivia didn't wait for Andrew to come home that evening. She decided to visit his office and confront him there. Everything needed to end today. "Olivia, what's going on?" Andrew looked at her with confused eyes, as if he had no idea what was about to unfold. "I know everything, Andrew," Olivia said coldly. "I know about your affair with Grace. I know about the betrayal I've been suffering for so long." Andrew didn't say anything, but in his eyes, Olivia could see a flicker of worry, a hint of fear. She knew he had always known but didn't want to admit it. They had been living in a false marriage, built on lies and deceit. "I don't want to live in this lie anymore," Olivia continued. "I'm divorcing you, Andrew, and I'll be taking full custody of the kids. You have nothing left to protect." Andrew didn't respond immediately. He just looked at her as though weighing his options. Finally, he nodded, his gaze dropping to the floor as if he had no fight left. "Is that what you've decided?" Andrew asked. "Yes," Olivia answered with certainty. In the weeks that followed, Olivia's life changed completely. Although the divorce was long and filled with tension, Olivia didn't feel regret. She realized that nothing was more important than living honestly, no longer wearing a mask in a false life. She regained custody of the children and protected them from unnecessary battles. Olivia decided to live independently, no longer needing anyone's acceptance or apologies. She focused on her work, spent more time with the children, and started learning how to love herself again. Andrew, after everything that had happened, was no longer the husband she once loved. She looked back at everything and realized she had lived a life too dependent on someone else. But now, Olivia was free, and that was all she needed. After the divorce, Olivia was no longer the woman who silently endured betrayal. She was no longer Andrew's or Grace's shadow. She was a free woman, standing on her own feet. Her journey began by rebuilding her personal life, navigating through challenges and solitude. She decided to return to the work she had loved before, working for a non-profit organization that helped women in difficult situations. This work gave Olivia a sense of purpose, an essential part of her healing process after everything she had been through. Olivia also realized that even though she had stepped away from the marriage, the wounds still needed time to heal. She turned to yoga, meditation, and therapy classes to help herself reconnect. She started rediscovering the things she loved, the hobbies that had been forgotten in favor of Andrew's family and career demands. While Olivia moved forward, Mark never quite left her mind. The weeks following their meeting, she no longer felt the need to confront him, but part of her still couldn't forget what had transpired. She had once wondered if Mark was the only villain in the story. Had he truly changed, or had she been drawn in by promises of a different future? Olivia decided to meet with Mark one more time. But this time, it wasn't about confrontation. It was about understanding their past relationship, to see if there was something she hadn't realized. They met in a quiet cafe one Saturday afternoon. Olivia could feel the change in Mark. He no longer exuded the power he once did. There was sadness, regret in his eyes. Olivia didn't rush. She wanted to hear him out. "Olivia, I know I was wrong," Mark said, his voice heavy with guilt. "I let everything go too far, and I know I broke your trust, but I never meant to hurt you. I thought you'd never find out." Olivia didn't rush to answer. She watched him silently, not letting emotion cloud her judgment. "I don't need your apology, Mark. I've suffered enough. I just want to know one thing. Why didn't you stop when you had the chance?" Mark fell silent, as if he couldn't answer that question. And Olivia, after all the heartbreak, finally realized something important. Not all relationships could be salvaged. She didn't need to find out why Mark had betrayed her. What mattered was that she had made the decision to stand up and walk away. Although Olivia had handled things with Mark, she couldn't forget Andrew, the man who had once been her husband, the man she had loved, the man who had turned her life into a series of lies. Andrew was the one she hadn't fully confronted yet. Previous conversations had always lacked closure, and she couldn't live with the unresolved anymore. One morning, when Andrew called to check on the kids, Olivia felt that she couldn't let things drag on any longer. Even though there had been a divorce, even with newfound freedom, she still hadn't completely escaped the shadow of the past. Olivia called Andrew and asked to meet. This time, she wasn't seeking an apology, but clarity. They met at a familiar cafe, the place where they had shared happy memories. But now, there was no sweetness. Only sincere words from two people who had lost everything they once had. "I don't need your apology anymore, Andrew," Olivia said, looking him straight in the eye. "I've lived with this pain for too long, but I want you to understand that I don't need you anymore. I'll raise our children on my own. We both have the right to find our own happiness." Andrew said nothing, just lowered his head in silence. They had both spent too much time on things that didn't matter, and now it was time to end it. Olivia didn't want to look back at the past. She just wanted to move on. After all that, Olivia found peace within herself. She no longer lived under Andrew's or Mark's shadows. She didn't feel the need to explain or prove anything to anyone. She knew she had gotten through it all, and now she was a strong, independent woman. Olivia continued her work at the non-profit and began making long-term plans for her children's lives. She didn't want them to grow up in the shadows of betrayal and hurt. Olivia learned how to take care of herself, love herself, and appreciate her own worth. There would still be challenges ahead, but Olivia knew she had the strength to face them. She didn't need anyone else's help because she had saved herself. And that was the greatest thing she could have done. As Olivia settled into her newfound life, things began to settle into a delicate rhythm. The chaos of her past gradually turned into distant memories, though not without leaving their marks. The reality of her independence was both liberating and daunting at times. She had come to appreciate her solitude, but at times the silence could still feel overwhelming. Her work at the nonprofit was becoming more fulfilling by the day. She had found her purpose, helping women escape from their own versions of the life Olivia had just escaped from. The deep satisfaction she found in helping others heal only made her more resolute in her decision to break free. But there were still moments when the weight of her past caught up with her, particularly when she spent quiet nights alone. In these moments, she would look at her children, her greatest joy and responsibility. They were growing up quickly, and Olivia had vowed to give them a childhood far removed from the dysfunction of her marriage. Despite her best efforts, she still struggled with the guilt of what they had witnessed during those years of emotional neglect. But she also knew that she was doing everything in her power to ensure that their future was brighter, filled with love, hope, and a sense of security. One day, while shopping for groceries, Olivia unexpectedly ran into an old friend, Sarah, whom she hadn't seen in years. They had been close friends back when Olivia was still married to Andrew. Sarah had always been a supportive and caring presence in Olivia's life, but after the marriage began to crumble, they had lost touch. "Olivia!" Sarah exclaimed, her face lighting up with joy as she saw Olivia in the aisles. "I can't believe it's you. How have you been?" Olivia smiled, feeling a warmth flood through her as Sarah embraced her. "I'm doing okay, just finding my way, you know." Sarah's expression softened. "I've heard about everything that happened. I'm so sorry, Olivia, but I'm glad to see you're standing strong." For a moment, Olivia hesitated. She had long ago let go of the need to talk about the past with anyone, but there was something about Sarah's sincere kindness that made her want to open up. They found a quiet corner of the store to sit and talk, and Olivia let her walls come down. "I'm doing better," Olivia confessed, "but it's still hard. Some days, I feel like I'm living someone else's life. It's not the life I envisioned, but it's the life I'm building now." Sarah listened intently. "I can't imagine how difficult it's been, but you're stronger than you realize, Olivia. You've already taken the hardest step by walking away. You'll rebuild, and you deserve happiness." As Olivia continued to regain control over her life, something unexpected happened. She started to feel the stirrings of a new kind of attraction. It wasn't a desperation for affection or a yearning to fill the void left by Andrew. Instead, it was a more gentle, natural feeling, one that caught her off guard. It started with a casual acquaintance from work. His name was Ryan, a fellow volunteer at the nonprofit. He was kind, empathetic, and always ready with a smile. They had become friends over the past few months, sharing the same values and passion for helping others. Ryan had recently gone through a rough breakup, and Olivia had seen in him the same strength that she had once fought to rediscover in herself. One afternoon, while wrapping up a project at the office, Olivia and Ryan found themselves alone in the break room. The conversation started innocently enough, but as the minutes passed, something shifted between them. It was as if they both realized the depth of their connection. Olivia couldn't explain it, but there was something familiar about Ryan. a warmth and openness that she hadn't experienced in a long time. Ryan looked at Olivia, his gaze softening. Olivia, I don't know if you're ready for this, but I just want you to know, I think you're an amazing person. I've really enjoyed getting to know you. Olivia felt a flutter in her chest. It had been so long since anyone had said something like that to her, and it felt oddly comforting. But she also felt a twinge of uncertainty. Was she ready for another relationship? Could she trust herself to give someone her heart again? Before she could respond, Ryan continued. I don't want to rush anything, but I'd love to get to know you better. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime, just the two of us. The offer was simple, yet it felt like the beginning of something significant. Olivia considered it for a moment. She wasn't sure if she was ready for this, ready to open her heart again. But she knew one thing. She wasn't the same woman who had once been controlled and manipulated by Andrew. She had learned how to trust herself again, how to value her own happiness. I think I'd like that, Olivia finally said, her voice steady. Olivia spent the next few days reflecting on Ryan's invitation. She wasn't looking for a rebound, nor was she eager to rush into another relationship. What she was looking for was something genuine, something real. She didn't know if Ryan was the one, but she did know that she was ready to explore the possibility of a relationship with someone who shared her values, someone who could offer her companionship without pressure. The coffee date with Ryan turned into a series of quiet evenings spent talking, laughing, and simply enjoying each other's company. There was no rush, no expectation. Olivia didn't want to be defined by her past. She wanted to live in the present, enjoying the moments that were now available to her. Ryan's patience and understanding helped her feel safe. He didn't try to fix her or push her into anything she wasn't ready for. Instead, he supported her journey, and for the first time in a long while, Olivia began to feel a sense of excitement about the future. As the months went by, Olivia's relationship with Ryan blossomed into something meaningful. But even as they grew closer, Olivia never lost sight of her own independence. She had learned the value of self-love, the importance of her own happiness, and the need to always remain true to herself. Her children flourished, growing up in an environment filled with love and respect. Olivia continued to focus on her career and her mission to help other women regain their own strength and independence. And although there were still moments of sadness and loneliness, Olivia knew that she had reclaimed her life. She had risen above the betrayal, the heartbreak, and the pain. Now, with a heart open to new possibilities, Olivia walked forward, knowing that her future was hers to create. And whatever came next, she was ready to face it, stronger, wiser, and more in love with herself than ever before. Olivia's story is not one of perfect resolutions, but of progress, of a woman finding her way back to herself. It's a journey of healing, of taking back control, and of discovering that even after the darkest times, there is always the possibility of a brighter tomorrow. Whether she continues with Ryan, whether she pursues her career with even more passion, or whether her path takes unexpected turns, Olivia now knows that no matter what, she is enough. She is the architect of her own happiness, and that's more than enough to face whatever life throws her way.